All right, so just kind of so you are prepared in the event on Facebook, I posted the links for the Google form and Google Sheet that we're going to use today. Just make sure you have a copy of it in your own Google Drive and you're ready to start working with it because we're going to have to link the form to the sheet, do edit a couple of cells, and then it's ready to go. It's just not something that a template really works for because there is some instructions that go with it. Your students will not be able to like log in and monitor how they're doing. I guess you could share the view only version of the Google Sheet with them so they could just kind of check in on it and see how it's going. Or what I would probably do is just like every class period, maybe have the leaderboard part of it just displayed for your students to see. So they can see like, okay, here's how the portfolios are doing, just so they don't risk like going in there and messing with the numbers in any way for everyone else. All right, I'm gonna crack on and just make sure you have the Google Sheet and the Google form for this ready to go. There's the link to a Google Doc in the chat. So open up both the form and the sheet, make a copy into your own drive and just have them open and ready to go. So what we're gonna have to do first is link the Google form to the Google Sheet. And then we're gonna have to basically delete out a couple of columns and copy over some formulas and then it's ready to go. So it's not super complicated. You don't have to like learn all the formulas. They're all built into the sheet already. All right, so the first one is on the Google form. So this is the presentation. You are able to customize any of this the way you want. So if you like don't want the headers in there or anything like that, you can take those out and replace them with your own graphic. I just had one in there because I work with Choosify Foundation, and this is something I'm going to try and include in their resources. I'm a big fan of NGPF as well, so I use a lot of their stuff, and we also have links to a lot of their games and simulations in the Choosify Foundation curriculum. If you're not familiar with it, I do suggest you go check it out. It's at choosifyfoundation.org. There's a pre-K all the way up through 12th grade curriculum, which includes lesson plans, resources, different activities, different assessments. So if you want to assess financial literacy or if you want to assess attitudes, behaviors, mindset towards money, that's a great way to do it. There's wonderful like project-based learning activities in there that can take a couple of days up to a week if you want something larger that you want to teach around. So yeah, highly recommend checking that out, or I'm happy to answer any questions about it towards the end. All right, so on your form, how I set this up originally was I did a drop down. So they had their first name, last name, the grade they're in. So if you're going to do this for the entire school, sometimes it's nice to check the grades, and you can do winners for each grade level. So it's just like a piece of information that you can keep or you can discard if you don't want it. You could put a staff option in there too. You could have parents if you want to like send this and say, hey parents, you want to get involved and take a shot at it, go for it. It's one of those things that you can open up to as many people as you want because it's just a Google form. There's no limit on how many people can fill out a form. In the section 2, they're picking their stocks. So this is the one that was the most challenging part, I guess, for me, is because I need the stock ticker symbol in order to be able to import the prices. So the Google Finance option in Google Sheets requires the ticker symbol, not the company name. And I tried experimenting with like, if the kid typed the company's name, that it would then translate it into the ticker symbol and then pull in the stock information, but it just wasn't working really well. And there was so much potential for kids to mess up the company name. So instead, what I'm asking them to do here is put in the ticker symbol. So 1 to 5 letters, it doesn't matter whether it's caps or not, I check that. So it can be lowercase or uppercase. And what we'll do is give them an accompanying sheet that they can just look at to see, okay, I want this company, here's what the ticker symbol is, or they have to do a little bit of research ahead of time and type it in. I tried it as a drop down with all 504 ticker symbols in the S&P 500, and it was just such a massive drop down that most kids were just tending to pick stocks that started with A because they just couldn't be bothered scrolling through the entire thing. So I think having them type in their ticker symbols is probably going to be the best system. If you have better ideas out there, I would love to hear them, first of all, because I'm really interested in doing this the most efficient way possible and the easiest way possible for as many people as possible. But 5 different stock symbols. So they would type in, Microsoft, Apple, Google, whatever, any ticker really works. Like it doesn't have to be in the S&P 500. They can do index funds, they can do mutual funds. The Google Finance software will pull in the symbols, but I figured rather than overwhelming every kid, like just stick with the S&P 500. You could do Dow Jones if you wanted to, you could do Russell 3000, like you can do whatever constraints you want and just maybe change up the information at the top to reflect that. So what we need to do is in the responses section, we need to link it to a spreadsheet, and it needs to link to your spreadsheet that you just copied into your Google Drive that I just gave you. So we don't want to create a new one. We want to link it to an existing spreadsheet. Yes. So I'm linking it to one that's for this presentation, so it doesn't mess with your stuff. But yours is just going to be, I think, CFI presentation, stock market game, and then copy of, unless you've renamed it already. So now what we need to do is, what you've noticed is that there's a new form tab at the bottom of your sheet. So every time you link a new form to the Google Sheet, it creates a new tab at the bottom, a whole new set of sheet, which was, again, one of the reasons why I couldn't just like share a template with everyone, because even if I share the template that I was using, it's going to create a new one anyway, and you can't link into the old sheet. So this is the example I have that we're going to steal the formulas from, and you'll be able to pull a lot of the information out of here. So the information that we really need is a start date. So when are you going to start your simulation? I recommend like you start maybe a week after you ask the students to pick their stocks, so you're not getting students stalling on you, waiting until the start date passes and then seeing, okay, which companies actually did really well, and then they pick those, because it's going to start everyone's portfolio on the same day as opposed to the date that they actually submitted their picks. So get the picks in and then start it on a future date. So if we said, we're going to start it today, it would be 1/31/2021. And we're going to do all of this in the new sheet that we just created. So we're going to have to add in a lot of these columns and rows to get started. When your student submits their sheet, you're going to have their last name. There's going to be a timestamp on it. We're just going to hide that column. We don't need it. They'll have their first name. Last name will be in there somewhere too. Just in my sample, I deleted it. Or last name, I put example. Never mind. You'll get your 5 stock tickers. And then what we're going to need to do is link up all of these different formulas. So it's pulling in information like the price. It's going to pull in the price on the given date that we started. So it's going to have today's price, the price on the day we started, and then it's going to find the difference between those and the percentage increase. So that's why we need those. So each stock needs actually 4 pieces of information to do the full portfolio. So we're going to copy over all of these formulas. Let's see, we got, so yeah, the percentage increase of the difference between today's price and the price we started at. And then I just say that it's $100,000. So each stock they pick is worth 20,000. It's just nice to have an actual portfolio number as opposed to just a percentage increase or decrease. You can get rid of that if you don't want to. If you just want to do which portfolio grows by the biggest percentage, that's totally fine too. And then we do that for each of our stocks. So we're just going to copy over this entire line into our new form. All right, so first thing we're going to need is this top 2 rows. So we're going to need the start date, the day, month, year. So we're going to copy those 2 rows into our new form. And they're going to have to go above the ones that are already there. Okay, so then when someone submits a piece of data, and I guess we can do that right now and just see like what that would look like before we add in our formulas. So if you go back to your Google form, and do a preview mode, you'll be able to submit it as if you were a student. So put in like an example one, like so, example, Rob. And then if you don't know 5 tickers, you can borrow the same ones I'm doing. So I'm just going to do Microsoft, Apple. I'm literally going to have to think of the first 5 ones that come across my mind. So you got 5 symbols in there and hit submit. So when we look now at my Google Sheet, the first piece of data has come in. So it's timestamped. I don't really care about the timestamp. If you want it, that's great, but at least it can tell you like whether they submitted it before the due date or not. So if we were going to start it on January 27th and I saw a timestamp of 131, I'm kind of like either this person's disqualified or I need to scoot forward my start date. So, if I'm like, all right, maybe 10 kids came in a little bit late, just to keep it fair, I'm going to make the start date February 2nd. And that just means everyone's portfolios are going to start on that date and then move forward from there. But I'm going to make this just a date in the past so that the data does come in. All right, so all I've got at the moment are my stock symbols. So these are the ones that I entered. And then we're going to have to bring over the formulas to make all the magic happen. So you go into the template sheet for the formulas. And we are going to copy everything from column J all the way over to AE. We're going to just take it all. So don't even worry about copying specific rows. We're going to take the entire column. For those of you unfamiliar with Google Sheets, I'm just using the Control-C function. And I'm going to drop it in. I'm going to highlight column J and drop all of that in. And you can see that my data is already coming through. It looks like everything's working, which is great. I don't see any of the like formulas are broken sign on that first row, which is exactly what I want. And if this were my portfolio starting on the 20th of January, I would be down 3.75%, mostly because Apple, Starbucks, and I think Microsoft all fell this past week. Pretty sure Neo and CRISPR are up.
I just have a question. What happens then? So I put in something that was not a symbol just to see what would happen. Mm-hmm. So what if a kid does that, then will they just have to go back and fill out a new form? You would delete all those responses? Or because like I put in for number 2, something that wasn't a symbol mm-hmm. to kind of see what would come over, and there's obviously no data in those columns. How would they fix that if a student did that?
So say like a student wrote Apple or something like that, which
exactly.
is not a valid stock.
Exactly.
And everything's off the moment. You can actually just say like, hey, what stock were you trying to do? Oh, Apple, let me just fix that for you. AAPL.
Okay.
And so you can just adjust it.
Fix it right in the spreadsheet.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Because yeah, if they submit another spreadsheet, it'll give them another row and you don't really want to be going through multiple entries. You could limit your Google form to 1 entry per person, which would avoid some of that. Because I don't know if kids would go back in and do it multiple times. Okay. But you could also say like, do you want to do 3 portfolios? Go do it. And then we'll just see like which one comes out on top. Okay. As each new person comes in, it'll populate another row. We already have the formulas set to go. If you need more formula lines, like you have more than 105 kids doing this, like just grab that last row and copy it down as many times as you need it. So what it's doing is it's adding up the $20,000 times each of the growths for each of the stocks. So it's adding all those together to get your portfolio value. So they're starting with 100,000. This is what this portfolio is currently at. The change is just, what's the total amount they have. Take it from 100,000 divided by 100,000. So that's the total portfolio growth. You can see like which stock has grown by what percentage. So my first stock is Microsoft. So Microsoft is up 3.4%. Apple is down, just almost broken even. Stock information is on that tab on the bottom. So if you want to share this with your students, you can do it. Just make sure you're sharing the sheet as a view only. So you've got the company name and then the stock symbol. So this is the ticker symbol they would need to put into that Google form. I get copies of the Wall Street Journal delivered to my school. Wall Street Journal just pretty much says if you're an education institution, they will send copies for free. So I get a Wall Street Journal sent to my school every day for free. So when we're in person, I normally just let kids group around it and like look through the different companies for ones they recognize, and they look at the ticker symbol. Some just want to do it on Google or Yahoo Finance. Like there's a lot of places they can get that information from. But you just want to stress, like, make sure you're putting in an accurate symbol just to make life a little bit easier. Want to do something like Vanguard's total stock market index, like VTI, it will pull in ETFs, no problem. If you want just a list of the S&P 500 companies with their stock symbols, that's also there on the bottom. All right, the last part then that you might be interested in is just like a leaderboard. So do you want to know which teams are on top or whatever? All you have to do is go to that leaderboard tab, and at the moment it's set for the old template. So like the original template for formulas. And all we need to do is just change the actual sheet it's pulling it from. So at the moment it's called template sheet for formulas. If I want to update this, I need to change it to form responses 2. And it just needs to match whatever the name of that tab is. So form responses 2. And it starts pulling in that information. And then I would just copy that. So yeah, this wouldn't be there. I guess we change those as well. So this will also pull in the names of your kids too. So if you then take that whole top row, you've changed all of the formulas to now say form responses 2 or contemporary math, personal finance class, whatever you want to call it. If you want to do multiple classes and you want to separate them, either in the form, ask them which class they're in. So it just creates another column that you can sort by, or give each class a different form and link them all to the same spreadsheet. And it will create a new tab for each form that you link. And you just have to repeat the formulas process for each one. And then when I'm in here, all I do is I just create a filter and I ask it to filter by either the portfolio value, so biggest to smallest, or by the percentage change. And you can just make a very quick leaderboard that way. I would just display this screen for my kids if they were like walking to my classroom. I usually have like the leaderboard just up on the screen so they can take a look at it. We can discuss like what happened in the stock market yesterday or last week, and then I close it down. You could also share a view-only version of this screen with your students too, if you wanted to. All right, my friends, that is the creating a stock market game from Google Forms and a Google Sheet. Anyone else?